if you look at where he was at, he was fairly active. Like 2014 was his year. Stopped Philippou, triangle Tim Boesch, guillotine Michael Bisping, and then into 2015, he got that rear naked choke win over Lyoto Machida, and then culminating that year with that 4th round TKO over Chris Weidman that won him the belt. But then in 2016, it just started to unravel a little bit. You know, he lost the belt to Bisping. He won a fight over David Branch. But then, you know, he got stopped by Yoel Romero, that shotgun to the face, and then Jan Blachowicz dropped him stiff to the canvas. And if you look at the time between those fights as well, the loss to Bisping 2016, the win over Branch 2017, the loss to Romero February 2018, the loss to Blachowicz July 2019. Like, these losses have been spaced out, and he's been living with that for a long time. I would say he's been on a bit of a downward spiral since the loss to Michael Bisping, because that probably still haunts him to this day. I know obviously they're friends now and everything, but Bisping's never going to let him forget the fact that he knocked him out and took his belt off him. It's just, you know, it's just the nature of their relationship. They've both got very abrasive personalities in that way. The other thing as well you've got to bear in mind, so Paulo Costa was undefeated up until the point when he lost to Israel Adesanya. So he lost to Adesanya in September of 2022, and then he took 13 months out, and then came back against Marvin Vettori and fought over 5 rounds in October of 2021. He just didn't look great. You know, he came into fight week 25 pounds overweight, I think it was. They moved it to a catch weight. Then it ended up being a light heavyweight bout, and Marvin Vettori was, well, you know, riding my balls, or whatever Vettori would say to that. You know, he don't care. He'll fight you at whatever weight class you want to show up at. The fact that Vettori kind of showed up like not bothered, and, you know, of course, he always shows up looking in great shape, but physically being in shape is a different thing for a fight. And showing up that overweight shows that, to me, that he'd not prepared the way that he would normally. You know, I think he felt like he was going to just be too much for Marvin Vettori technically, but Vettori's that hard-nosed, skills everywhere, the brown belt on the mat that you don't want to roll with because he's going to sub black belts all day. You know, just a nightmare of a fight. And Costa, for all the gamesmanship and the talking that he was doing, like, that was a really, really bad fight for him. How do I say this without upsetting anybody? They're both very vain, and they've both got very big egos, and they're both their own biggest fans. But that membership club has taken a bit of a hit recently, and they're both feeling it. You know, Paulo Costa has got to get a win here because he's going to be on a 3-fight losing streak. Luke Rockhold can't get knocked out again, and not to Paulo Costa. Imagine the pressure that's going into this one. Honestly, like, I look at this fight and I can't even research it without giggling. I'm so excited about it. Because there's so much going on in this that's not anything to do with mixed martial arts. There's so much going on about self-perspective, about how does Paulo Costa feel about himself right now after getting grilled by Marvin Vettori for 5 rounds, or being completely outclassed by Adesanya. Like, you can imagine a tumbling down of this self-belief that would be very difficult to recover. On the other side, you've got Luke Rockhold, who's must have been trying to hold this confident front together now for a good while. They're both very awkward. They're both very kind of uncomfortable in their own skin, even though they're very physically well-conditioned and good-looking dudes. Like, they're kind of mirrors of one another in a weird way. But they're both also in this very interesting situation. They're in the co-main event. There's lots of attention on them. But neither of them have got a very strong foothold on their career right now. And I know how that feels. I've been there, and it is a weird place to be, because you lose one fight and you're going to pick it up the next time. Then you get knocked out in the next one. Then you're going to pick it up the next time around. Then they put you against a giant, and all of a sudden it starts to feel like it's all coming down. I know what it feels like. And the easiest thing to do is to think about throwing kicks and punches. The hardest thing to do is to believe that it's going to amount to anything. And the psychological stance of these two coming into this, I can't even begin to imagine.